I am Alex Ezell. I work here at Emma as the Director of Technology. I've been a developer, R&D, development manager, lots of things here at Emma, writing code and making sure other people write code for about 6 years. So if you have any questions about what we do at Emma or what I've done at Emma, please ask me. Today I'm here to talk about Moment.js, which I did not write. I can't take any credit for it, but it's fantastic. Has anyone used this in any of their projects? Yes, a few of you. Hopefully you will agree that it is one of the better JavaScript libraries that I've ever used. It is a library that lets you deal with time in JavaScript very easily. You can manipulate time, parse time, do queries on time, sort of differences and additions and subtractions. It also has really deep support for language internationalization across time, which is pretty cool. So if you deal with a lot of user input where people are giving you times, for example, scheduling mailings for different times across the world, and you want to store that in your database in a consistent way, this is awesome. So Moment comes with lots of defaults. So if you just use it straight out of the box, you'll see this is the default output format. I'll show you in a minute how you can change that. It also will automatically find your local time. So this knows that my computer is set to CDT or CST, CDT I guess in this case. But we can change all of those things. So the parsing is the first thing we want to look at. So if we want to, let's see, we want to know what today is. We can just do that if we look at today. So this is a little bit of the internals. Oh, that color is terrible. I'm sorry. I don't know how to change that. Let's just do this. It's a little bit better. So this is just the default is now. That was, well, a couple of seconds ago, but it's March 30th. We can also do things like tell it what day we want. So it has some pretty nice parsing that makes things easier. So in this case, yesterday, notice the time, right? Goes to the beginning of the day. We can change that too if we want to later on. We can also give it a time here in the format, in the parsing. One of the things that's nice is, especially if you're dealing with user input, is that someone tells you that they want their mailing to go out at that time. You can check this, right? So pretty easy. Exactly as you'd expect. That's invalid. We can, if we know that we have a strange format that our UX designers tell us that they want people to type dates into, and it looks something like this, because they like it to be really verbose, we can give it a format, optional format argument. That gives us the correct day. So it ignores all of this stuff, white space, and any alphanumeric characters that do not match what it knows about. So it knows about months in whatever language you're in. It knows about day names in whatever language you're in. So it can parse those things out, but typically it's pretty smart about this. The only sort of browser support for parsing, the only thing that it does across browsers without fail is ISO 8601, which you guys probably know looks a little bit like this with some other time stuff behind it. There's a couple different formats of this, but that's the only thing that's guaranteed. So if you're doing anything that's not completely ISO 8601, you're a little worried about browser support, you're going to want to make sure you pass a formatting argument when you're trying to parse these things out. The last thing you can do is you can give it an array. So that you, off by one error, right? So these are integers. Notice this is the fourth instead of the third. So this isn't the array format if you have integers coming out of a database or something like that. So a couple of the ways this works. is one of the things we use it for is we want to store, of course, UTC in the database, but our users are everywhere and their browsers are set to whatever time zone. Sometimes they tell us what time zone they're in. Sometimes people in Chicago think they're in Australia time zone because they don't know anything about it. We don't really care. So what we do is we do this. So UTC is just it's essentially a mode switch, right? So we tell it we want this particular object to be in UTC. We want some other object to be in local. So if I change that back, you'll see the time switch is 5 hours. So that is UTC and local modes are specific to a particular instance, not global, which is really nice. Interestingly, if you do something like this, and then you do a.value. So value of will give you the Unix epoch. So those are roughly the same within a couple of milliseconds of each other. But if I change B to UTC, oh, uh-oh. Sorry. Let me do this. If I read my notes, it helps. Now do B.value up. So these are going to be a little off because I had to redo it, but they're very, very close. So internally, let's see if this will work. So you'll see it has this attribute as UTC. You guys can't read this, but it says Saturday, March 30th, 2013, 11:53. If we look at B, it's almost exactly the same, except is UTC is true, use UTC. This is 11:54. So internally, it keeps the actual value the same. The only time you ever actually will see the UTC is when you output it. So if I call .format or I want to output some other version of what it looks like, then that's when it actually will do the conversion and change the time. That's why you get to go back and forth. You can also do things like there's get and set. So let's say we have B. We want to see what the seconds are for B. That's 10, but we actually want to tell it like, no, that's more like 30. You'll see we changed the seconds. You can't see it, but it says 30 right there. So you can, because you can do getters and setters, you can also say, let's do b.add. Let's say we're going to add 7 days. Yes, thank you. Best part of doing this is that someone can fix my typos as I go. So we added 7 days. We get 4/6 instead of March 30th. We get April 6th. Add and subtract are pretty smart. So let's say we have a date that is, let's see, January 28th. Say 27th. And then we want to do .add. We get February 27th. So it's not just adding 30 days. It's not just adding some random amount of time. Sorry, I did that example wrong. What I meant to say was, let's do a February. Let's say it's February 15th. Boots. We get March 15th, which is correct, right? If we were just adding 30 days, we would have gotten something totally weird because February has some odd number of days. You can do things like if you want to figure out the start of a particular day. So let's say you have time here, but you don't really, let's actually pick one that has time. Did I do now? No. Great. So now we'll have the time. Start of, we go back to midnight of today. There's end of. You can also pass in different strings here. You can get the start of the month, start of the week, whatever you want to do. On the formatting side, you can do tons of different formats. It uses, it looks like this. If I do the whole schlemiel. Right, so I can pass in a string. That's pretty much almost everything you can do. Sorry. So we print it all out. This is completely customizable, the strings that are here. Not only can you switch languages, but you can also write whatever words there you want. You can give it an array of all these things. So instead, if you want to say instead of Saturday, you can be like, best day of the week is Saturday, if that's what you like. There's some things you can do about. So moment from now, if we take something I did earlier, this is a little confusing. Let's do today. Tells me it was 10 minutes ago. These strings are also completely customizable. If you don't want the ago, you can pass in the Boolean and just get the time by itself, which is really cool. So if you want to know the difference between two, that's in seconds. You can tell it that you'd rather have minutes because you want to tell people about minutes. Obviously, one, right? So that stuff's pretty cool. You can also test things. So if you want to know if now is before yesterday. So remember now and yesterday are two moment objects. So we're always dealing with moment objects. These are not actual JavaScript datetime objects, although you can get the datetime objects if you need them. So you can do after as well. So that's correct, which is great. The language stuff is pretty cool. So if we just do, it's really easy to use. Let's say I know a little bit of French, and I want to show someone, I know that my user speaks French, so I'm going to go ahead and give them the French date output. But later on, they tell me that it's English, and I'm like, all right, that's cool. We'll just show you some English then. So the LLLL stuff is the localized date format. So notice that not only is it changing the language of the words, but it's also changing the order to match whatever the localized sort of official date time order is, which is really nice. You can create your, so the customization can work in two ways. You can do it at runtime, so you can just hand it an array or something of strings that you want to use. Let's say you have your users can have different sort of settings, right? Like if you think about like pirate language and stuff that Google used to do, like all that weirdness. You can do that stuff at runtime, but you could also just have it set at a global level, and it's the same for everybody, depending on whatever your application needs. Moment.js also does support what they call durations. Let's see if I can do one real quick. Trying to think of the format. Well, anyway, I'll just talk about the. So durations have no context. So the duration is just, this is like 10 seconds. And you can do things like compare durations, like which one is longer or shorter. But they don't have any context to actual date times. So you can't use them to say like, well, I have a duration that's 10 minutes, but now I want to add 30 minutes. It doesn't know how to do that because there might be daylight savings times considerations. If you're wrapping around the day, it might need to know to change the day. Duration doesn't know about anything as far as that stuff is concerned. The other thing you can do is, if we do this, there is a calendar method as well. Okay, so we're in French. So we'll change it. So you can do some calendaring stuff too. There are plugins for Moment.js. If you prefer string ftime sort of syntax for your formatting, there's a plugin that does that. There's a plugin if you want to do Twitter style, 30 seconds ago, 1D ago, you know how they do in the Twitter timeline, you can do that stuff. There's one called Twix, which does some really cool things if you're trying to show people the difference between two dates and how it formats the output. Those plugins are really cool. The library minimized is 5.5K, so it's very, very small. There's some profiling on their site that talks about how fast the formatting is, and it's pretty much faster than most everything else I've used. There are 14,000 some odd tests here as well. Every language that gets submitted, I mean, they support something like, I think it's like 15 languages right now. You can obviously write your own, but every language that gets submitted has to have unit tests for all of it. So confidence is pretty high that what they're doing is correct. We haven't run into any issues yet. We use this quite a bit around our sort of scheduling, soft scheduling part of when we send mailings. That's it. I think that's all I got. If you guys have any questions about Moment or how it does what it does, I can maybe answer those. Awesome. Then we can go eat. All right, thanks.
All right, I believe lunch is ready. So if you could, just line up here and line this direction.